Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of In Pursuit of a Parlay. I'm your host, Chris Horwedel. Episode 9 of the show, getting to double digits. This is very exciting, and as I like to say at the beginning of most episodes, as I've had the pleasure of saying at the top of most episodes, thank you so much for the support so far. The numbers on YouTube just keep going up and up and up and up, and I know that we have a very exciting time in sports right now that may be fueling that a little bit. I'm not naive enough to believe that we're going to keep going up and up and up and up when it's past March Madness, but I'm thrilled for it. I'm thankful for it. Please continue doing all the great things you're doing right now. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel so make sure you don't miss an episode of this or any of the other great programming we have coming for you. If you're watching this episode specifically, please like it. Please share it with anybody who would be interested. And, it is beyond appreciated is the way I would put it. It is simply beyond appreciated. And it means a ton. If you're listening to the audio-only version, the podcast version of this show, rate it, rate the show. I'd love to get 5 stars, but honest ratings are also welcome. Rate, review, comment, do all of that good stuff, and just thank you again for your support. So, we find ourselves in an amazing time for basketball right now. Just an absolutely spectacular time. We've got 2 great Final Fours this weekend to look forward to. We're going to talk about the men's side. We're going to talk about the women's side. We're going to talk about some NBA games in addition to that to get our 8-pick parlay up. 2 weeks ago, we had the winner. Last week, there were some upsets. We'll leave it at that. But I feel extraordinarily good about this show this week, as I always do. I have bovadasportsbook.com open in front of me, and we are going to use their lines. So, let's address this. I have been asked a couple of times, why do I use Bovada? And it's, quite frankly, it's just the site that I'm most comfortable with. It's my favorite of the sports books. There's no real reason past that. It's the site I like the most. I like the lines. I like the interface. Easy to place bets. Easy to make my wagers. Easy to keep track of everything. So it's what we're going to use. It's what we're going to use for now. We'll see what the future holds. Maybe we'll mix it up at some point. But you do what you're comfortable with. And why walk away from the best? Let's start men's college basketball. We're in Nolans at the Caesars Superdome. These games are going to be played on Saturday, April 2nd, so you've got a little bit of time, but we're going to have some games from tonight in the NBA, and we've got the women's college games tonight as well, so make sure you get your bet in advance. Full disclaimer, I already have a 6-game parlay that I've placed that includes these games tonight and the women's games. I hit on a couple of NBA games as the first leg of that parlay a couple of nights ago. So I feel good about that. I think we've got a winner here, and we're going to place this 8-teamer at the end of the show today. Let's start with Villanova and Kansas. This is an interesting game because we're showing right about a 50-50 split, a slight lean towards Nova winning this one outright, and it's going to be a fascinating game because last week I said you don't pick against Jay Wright in the tournament. And there's something to be said about that. Given the struggles from Colin Gillespie and the struggles from Justin Moore and then the eventual Achilles injury to Justin Moore near the end of the game against Houston, I'm honestly shocked we're talking about Villanova playing Kansas in this championship, in this Final Four game for the right to go to the championship on Monday. That speaks to how talented the rest of this roster is. It speaks to how strong the game plan was to contain an electric Houston team. All credit to Jay Wright. Some sounds, apparently, we can't mute. All credit to Jay Wright. He deserves the credit here. Nova's coming off of that 50-44 win against Houston, but like I said, the Achilles injury to Justin Moore is going to change things. This Nova team is not a deep team to start off with. And this is going to mean more time for Chris Arcidiacono, and that's not a great thing, especially against these Kansas guards. It's going to be interesting to see how Jay Wright adjusts. Does Jermaine Samuel swing down and play a little bit more with Gillespie and Caleb Daniels, or do they go bigger? I know there were issues rebounding the ball last week against Houston, especially in the first half. The second half, they figured things out a little bit. But the first half was a disaster. It seemed like Houston was just getting offensive rebound opportunity after offensive rebound opportunity. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Move on to Kansas. They're coming off of a pretty easy win over Miami. What do you say about that? I mean, Miami was overmatched. All credit to them for getting to the Elite Eight, but you run up against this number one Kansas team, the lone remaining number one Kansas team, number one seed in the tournament, and it wasn't really a game. At no point was it really a game. Outstanding game for McCormick. Outstanding game for Brown. Agbaji was... He's interesting because of how passive he is. I feel like O'Shea should be a guy who gets 15 to 20 shots a game. But you wonder, does he have that alpha mentality? I don't know. It concerns me because all of the physical tools are there for him to be an absolute stud, especially at the college level. And there's a passiveness. And maybe it's just a desire to play within the team, and that's admirable. But I'd like to see him be more aggressive. He's an interesting NBA prospect. Villanova is going to have a hard time with Jalen Wilson. That's the biggest thing that occurs to me in this game. Jalen Wilson has done a really nice job rebounding the ball in the tournament for the Jayhawks. The 6'8" power forward, I would assume is going to be matched up against Eric Dixon on the other side. Dixon is one of the reasons that Villanova advanced against Houston. He played very well, hit a big three. It's going to be a fun matchup to watch. So we're showing Villanova covering this thing about 58% of the time. So, slight favorite towards Villanova winning. Favorite towards Villanova covering. And this is why I think there's an opportunity here. And it's not the one that I would like. I would love to jump on this plus 160 Villanova money line, but I don't think it's there. I think this is going to be the end of the road for the Wildcats, unfortunately. I think the Justin Moore injury is going to prove difficult to overcome. We're going to go Kansas -4 to cover. This is a gut feeling. This is not being a homer. Kansas -4 to cover is our first pick in today's parlay. And it does absolutely positively break my heart to say that. Moving on to the Duke North Carolina game. Could you have asked for this? Could you have asked for anything better? This is drama. This is why we love sports. This North Carolina team, in what was going to be the last matchup between Duke and North Carolina in the Coach K tenure, this North Carolina team kind of put it on Duke about a month ago. I think that's going to end up being a very bad thing. That win is going to end up be a very bad thing for them right now. This is Duke starting to figure stuff out, starting to come together. Mark Williams looked very, very good last week. We're showing that Duke is going to win this one about 68% of the time. North Carolina, all the credit in the world that they have gotten here. That win over Baylor in the second round was probably the most impressive in the tournament. Good win over UCLA in the Sweet 16. Simply overclassed St. Peter's athletically and talent-wise in the Elite Eight. North Carolina 28-9 in the season. It seems like this is probably where the end is. It seems like this is where the Cinderella story is going to stop. And we get to see Coach K with some comeuppance here. But that's not to say the North Carolina team isn't talented. They are. It's been fun to watch Brady Manick figure things out outside of a Trae Young driven world. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that this guy, who was just kind of watching Trae Young play basketball so many years ago, was going to turn into this kind of player for North Carolina? Even a borderline NBA prospect. There is a place for guys who have that kind of skill set, the ability to shoot the ball from deep. Baycott's been a monster, 12.8 rebounds a game. Caleb Love he's been consistent. He's never turned into the star that we thought he was going to as a 5-star prospect, but 15.7 points, 3.4 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 37% from three. He's a good player, not a great player. Problem is, this Duke Blue Devils team they're loaded with great players. It is worth pointing out, outside of a 17-point win against Cal State Fullerton in the first round of the tournament, they haven't really hammered anybody. A 9-point win over 7-seed Michigan State, a 5-point win over 3-seed Texas Tech, a 9-point win over 4-seed Arkansas, the Eric Musselman team last week. And boy, if you can buy stock on any team, you want an interesting futures pick at Bovada, that Arkansas team would be a team to watch out for. I think they've got 3 McDonald's All-Americans coming in next year, including Nick Smith Jr., who is he's electric. They're not overperforming. They're not going away. Arkansas is probably going to be even better next year, and it's going to be scary for the rest of that conference. But we're going to have plenty of time to talk about Arkansas next year. Duke is just loaded. The apology tour for Paolo Banchero and my personal apology tour continues. I did nothing but say he should be the 3rd pick in the draft all year. And then he's the guy. He's the draft pick that has elevated his stock the most in my mind during this tournament, at least of the top prospects. He has shown that the game's not too big for him. He's shown the ability to take over and to make clutch plays when needed. He shot 3 fairly well. He handles the ball. I want to see him rebound more. I want to see him rebound more. But he is the safest pick of any of these top 3 guys in Holmgren, in Jabari Smith, in Banchero to be a good NBA player. He's gonna help the Magic. He's gonna help the Pistons, one of those teams next year. But Duke's just too good. They have been figuring stuff out. They look comfortable. Now, we do show that North Carolina is going to cover this line, which -4 at Bovada, about 63% of the time. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I think these stats are fun during the regular season, but once we get into this part of the year, I don't think they're quite as applicable. I really don't. As long as Duke and whoever it is, Wendell Moore or Trevor Keels or AJ Griffin, can stay in front of Manick and just not give him open jump shots, I think Duke's going to roll to this. I think they're going to roll to this win. I would be shocked if it was this close. We're going to hop all over the Duke cover -4, which is -110 at Bovada. And that is going to move our parlay. Now 2 picks in. Might be a long show. Now 2 picks in to +257, as you can see right here on the screen. This, if you want a little bonus pick, not that we can place the bet right now, but if you want a little bonus pick, Duke to win the national championship. There are storybooky elements to it. Coach K winning another national championship and then stepping away, and that's all. That's all fine and dandy, but it's probably going to happen. Duke winning the national championship is the most likely outcome. And if you want to go exact result, which I know Bovada has as well, Duke winning the national championship over Kansas. I think I saw that. I don't have it in front of me here because I don't want to leave the screen for you guys. But I believe that was plus 225 last time I saw it. That feels really good. That feels like free money. Let's turn our attention to the women's Final Four, which is also going to be absolutely outstanding. We've got Louisville and South Carolina. We'll scroll down to this right here. The women's side down a little bit further. Louisville and South Carolina. And this is South Carolina minus 8.5 at Bovada. That's a big line for a Final Four game, but also South Carolina is, they're that good. This is a really, 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 really good South Carolina team led by National Player of the Year. I think she was one of the 2 best players in the country for sure. But National Player of the Year officially, Aaliyah Boston, the forward, who's averaging 16.8 points per game in 27 minutes. Everyone who has listened to the show, everyone who's listened to any show that I've done knows I think Caitlin Clark's the best player in women's college basketball. I think she should have been National Player of the Year. But that is no disrespect to Aaliyah Boston, who is an unbelievable player in her own right. And the driving force for why the South Carolina team is as good as they are. She's also been outstanding. This year. I mean, the one concern that I do have, and we'll talk about Louisville in a second, the one concern that I do have is how dominant a force Boston is in the post. 16.8 points per game and 12.2 rebounds, up from 11.5 last year. Really good, and 2.5 blocks. Aaliyah Boston's a beast. There's no question about that. And I think this is going to be the big reason why they're going to, spoilers, probably win this game. Looking at Louisville, they were 29-4 on the season, good for second place in the ACC. They beat Albany, they beat the Zags, they beat Tennessee, they beat Michigan last round, 62-50. And this Louisville team is led by Haley Van Lith. No question about that. One of the most fun players in the country, an explosive scorer, 14.5 points, 3.4 rebounds, 2.2 assists for Van Lith on the season while shooting 36.4% from three. Just a dynamite offensive player. And an adequate defensive player, 1.2 steals per game. Van Lith is the reason that this team has gotten as far as they have. There's no disrespect to the rest of this roster. There are other good players on this roster, including Kiana Smith and Emily Engstler, but this is Haley Van Lith's team. Can Engstler rebound against Aaliyah Boston? This is the big concern of this game. I don't know that the 6'1" Emily Engstler can rebound against National Player of the Year, Aaliyah Boston. But I also don't like this 8.5. That line concerns me a little bit. So for the first time here, I think we're going to hop onto a money line pick at Bovada, which is South Carolina minus 500. That's going to be our official third pick, and that is going to take our parlay, now 3 picks in, up to plus 328 on the screen, as you can see right there. By the way, if you haven't done so far, please like this episode. Please like this show. It helps other people find it, and we thank you for it. Moving on to the other women's game this week, and this one's going to be a really fun one. Connecticut Stanford. I know it goes without saying that if you get to the Final Four, your team is going to have superstars on it. And that is absolutely true here. I think, the UConn team tends to be thought of as Paige Bueckers and the rest. But the nice thing about Bueckers' injury this year is that, as I've said in the past couple of weeks, it let other people step up. It let Kristen Williams step up and gain more confidence. And this isn't just a one-handed team. Bueckers is outstanding. There's no doubt about that. And now that she's starting to come back and feel a little bit more, it seems like she feels more comfortable coming back from that injury. it's scary. And also, let's not address the fact that this NC State UConn game, double overtime win for UConn. As far as I'm concerned, it was the best game men's or women's side of the tournament so far. Unbelievably fun. Beckers plays 45 minutes, 10 of 15, 27 points, 6 rebounds, and assist. AZ Fudd was outstanding, 19 points. Kristen Williams, outstanding, 21 points, 5 rebounds. The team's very good. Team is... it's weird to talk about a UConn team being underrated, but this UConn team's underrated because of the Beckers injury, because they lost those 5 games during the regular season. They're underrated, and they are an opportunity here. They're a very interesting opportunity here. Let's move over to the Stanford team. Actually, one more thought before we leave this. Also, Beckers playing for a national championship at home, basically, a Minnesota girl. So a little added motivation for Beckers there. The Stanford team is Team Cameron Brink. Brink, utterly outstanding. Just a force in the paint for Stanford. The 6'4" sophomore from Beaverton, Oregon. Played 21 minutes a game this year, 13.4 points, 8.1 rebounds. That's the only concern, is Stanford does like the subs. And Brink hasn't been on the floor as much as you would want someone who is that dominant. There's no reason she shouldn't be playing 25 to 28 minutes a game. Only averaging 2.8 fouls, and I know there's some injury stuff there too. But 13.4 points, 8.1 rebounds, one of the better shot blockers in the country, 2.6 blocks per game. And that's gone all the way up to 2.9 at home. So it comes down to the stars in this game. And for as good as Cameron Brink is, for as good as Haley Jones is, for as good as Lexi Hull is, Paige Beckers and Kristen Williams and AZ Fudd and the rest of that UConn team are too good. And at this point, we're really just... You hope that they're not, and I suspect they're not, but we're just looking ahead to that South Carolina UConn championship coming up. I'm not 100% sure when that championship game is. Soon. So we are going to take UConn money line -110 at Bovada, and that's going to bring our parlay now 4 picks in up to plus 718, as you can see on the screen. And I'm going to say, this is a lock. This is a lock. These 4 games right now are locks. We don't see a lot. People talk about the NCAA tournament as something where it's upset after upset after upset. That tends to stop at a point. That tends to stop once we get into the Elite Eight, the Final Four. We don't see those crazy upsets anymore, largely because we don't see the opportunity for the 15s to get there. But we don't see those. It tends to go more chalk. And I think we're going to get chalk here. Aside from the fact that, for some reason, Stanford is a slight favorite over UConn. That just goes to the disrespect. But UConn's the better team. I know Stanford 32-3 on the season. First place in the Pac-12. It's a really good basketball team. They're not as good as UConn. And a bonus pick here. Yeah, I'm going to say South Carolina, a slight win over UConn in the championship game. But a game to look forward to. Let's turn to the NBA for a couple of games here to round out our picks this week. We're going to go Dallas Mavericks versus the Washington Wizards. We're going to show Mavericks winning this one about 66% of the time. Man, Luka has been unbelievable. The Mavs have won 4 of their last 5 of their last 6. They're 48-29, good for second place in the Southwest Division. 6 games behind the first place Memphis Grizzlies. I know we're almost at the end of the year. It still feels weird to say. Luka's been unbelievable. And first place Memphis Grizzlies. It just doesn't sound right. But all the credit in the world to John Morant, to Desmond Bane, to Jaren Jackson Jr. and Valanciunas there. That they're such a good basketball team, and they're such a fun basketball team. Looking at the Wiz. The Wiz, playing without Kyle Kuzma tonight, their leading scorer, but Porzingis has looked good. And they've won 3 of their last 5 games. 33-43, 4th place in the Southeast Division. 15.5 back over first place Miami. We're showing that the boy, this is really interesting. I think we should address the Satoransky double-double, one of the big reasons that they managed to beat the Magic. An unusual double-double for Satoransky, who gets the double-double with rebounds and assists. You do not see it break that way very often. Tends to be points and something else, but not how it went this time. The Mavericks averaging 107.1 points per game to the Wizards 108. This over-under is appealing because of that. The Mavs are 27-7 as a favorite against the line. The Wizards 20-25-1 as an underdog against the line. So sub 500. Going into this one, 9 points is a lot. And we're already sitting at plus 718. So I'm going to say, I'm going to be a coward. I'm going to hedge. I'm going to say I think the Mavericks do cover this. But for the sake of winning this parlay, for the sake of safety, we're going to take the Mavericks minus 415 money line at Bovada. And that, as you can see on the screen right now, is going to bump our parlay now 5 picks in up to plus 939. Why risk it, right? We're on the cusp of 10-1. Why risk it here? Play it safe. Make some money. Let's go to this Toronto Raptors Orlando Magic game right here. We're showing the Magic getting 11.5 points. Raptors are going to win this one about 76% of the time. And they have been playing great basketball recently. Siakam has a triple-double, 12 points, 10 rebounds, and 13 assists. A career-high 13 assists for Siakam in a really impressive win, 125-102 win over a Timberwolves team that has been very good recently. The Raptors 44-32, 3rd place in the Atlantic Division, 2.5 behind the Atlantic leading Boston Celtics. One of the first times all year we've said that. Celtics have been something recently. We're going to look at them in the next game. But this Raptors team also, have won 4 out of 5, and they actually beat the Celtics 2 games ago, 115-112. Orlando, on the other hand, 20-57. It's good for 5th place in the Southeast Division, one of the worst records in all of basketball. They're 29 games back behind the division-leading Miami Heat. Lost their last 4 and 4 of their last 5, including losses to the Wizards, Cavaliers, and Kings. You hate to say rolling over, but it does feel like there's an element of rolling over going on in Orlando right now. That's fine. We're playing for the future. We're showing the Raptors are going to cover this 11.5 about 61% of the time. They're playing for something, and Orlando really isn't. We're showing the Raptors 25-17 as favorites against the spread. Orlando 31-37 underdogs against the spread. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Everything. This is very similar to that previous game because it does seem like we're in a position where the Raptors cover this. And the minus 115 versus the minus 635 money line at Bovada is tempting for sure. Nothing wrong with extra money, especially when all the numbers suggest that it's a solid play. But we don't need it. We're not going to be greedy. This is the power of the parlay. We're stacking odds here. We're still going to sit in probably that plus 12 to 1, 13 to 1 on our money when this is all said and done. So we'll take the Raps money line, minus 635, 6 picks in. Our parlay, look at that, is already 11 to 1, plus 1102 at Bovada. That's real money. This is an opportunity. Look, I've said certainty, and I do kind of feel like that. We haven't taken a bunch of risks here, and we've got a big number just by being smart. Let's look Pacers, Celtics right here. This is another big line. We're showing the Celtics are going to win this one about 92% of the time. Indiana just doesn't have much going on right now. They've lost their last 5, obviously, of their last 5. Bogdanovich led the Hawks to a win over the Pacers, 132 to 123. A couple of nights ago, they just haven't been competitive. They're 25 and 52, 4th place in the Central, 23 and a half back. Obviously, there won't be a playoff type. This isn't a playoff type year for the Pacers. Brogdon's out. Duarte's out. There just isn't much that isn't out for this Pacers team, who does seem to have packed things in. Justin Anderson actually got 32 minutes last game against the Nuggets. Goga Bitadze got 33. Tyrese Halliburton is getting as much playtime as he wants as his buddy Hield, and Halliburton wasn't great. 15 is a lot of points. 15 is a lot of points. The Celtics, 47 and 30, one of the hotter teams in basketball, despite the fact that they've lost their last 2 to good teams, the Miami Heat and the Toronto Raptors. Good for 47 and 30 is good for first place in the Atlantic, as I mentioned earlier. Half game over the Philadelphia 76ers. They've lost 2 in a row, but I'm not overly concerned with that. They were both competitive games. A 3-point loss to the Raptors, an 8-point loss to the Heat, where Jimmy Butler had a very strong game. Jason Tatum's elevated himself. He's trying to force himself into the MVP conversation. Probably a little bit too late for that as it stands, but just playing unbelievable basketball. We're showing the Pacers to cover this 15 about 59% of the time. And this is a dilemma, isn't it? This is a dilemma for us. The Pacers are 22-22-1 as an underdog against the spread. The Celtics 29-27-1 as a favorite against the spread. Pacers 14-12, slightly above 500 as an away dog against the spread. Celtics slightly under 500 at 15-20-1 as a home favorite against the spread. This is a dilemma. There's no debating that. But I would just hate to get into, and I feel like cowardice is the buzzword of the day here. But I would hate to get into this situation where we've got 6 of the 8 already, and then the Celtics win by 13 to ruin this thing. That minus 1,500 is not exciting. That minus 1,500, just looking at things, while a Pacers cover here would take our parlay up to, it would double it. It would take it to plus 2246, whereas that 1,500 only takes us up to 1,211 plus 1,211. But I think we have to play it safe. Let's take the free money. There's no reason not to. So that is going to be our pick. Celtics Celtics money line at Bovada, minus 1,500, 7 picks in. The parlay now sits, as you can see on the screen, plus 1,211, plus 1,211. 12 to 1 odds, 12 to 1 on your money. It's not 22 to 1, but there's a much higher percentage chance in my mind of hitting on the 12 to 1 than hitting on that cover and jumping it up to 22 to 1. Let's not be greedy. We're not here to be greedy. We're here for free money. And maybe we can add a little bit more here. We're going to move down to this Clippers-Bucks game right here. We're showing the Bucks are going to cover this thing about 71% of the time. They're going to win this game about 71% of the time. Clippers have won one of their last, 8 games, including one of their last 5, obviously. 37-40. They're fading. They're third place in the Pacific Division, 25.5 behind first place Phoenix. 25.5 back, and you're in third place. Granted, playing without Paul George, playing without Kawhi Leonard, but when isn't a Kawhi Leonard team playing without Kawhi Leonard at this point? They just gave up 50. They gave up a 50-piece to DeMar DeRozan in an overtime win a couple of nights ago, where the Bucks win, the Bulls win 135-130. Oh, man. The Bucks, 48-28. Just looking at some of these stats here and there, they're perplexing. The Bucks, 48-28, first place in the Central Division, 3.5 up on second place Chicago. They've won 4 of their last 5. Only loss in there is a 25-point loss to the Memphis Grizzlies. Giannis is much like Jason Tatum, trying to pull himself back up into the MVP race, all the way up to 30.1 points per game after a couple of big games in a row. We're showing the Clips are going to cover this thing about 57% of the time. The line at Bovada is minus 7.5. Bucks minus 7.5. So here we are. Do we? Because there's opportunity here. As you can see, there is opportunity here. So do we go for the gusto? Do we go for the bigger payout? Or do we play the thing safe? Let's look at where we could land. Bucks are probably going to win this game. I think that's where we all stand. Bucks are probably going to win this game. And that minus 330 would take our parlay up to a system error has occurred. Would significantly bump up our parlay. Let's put it like that. I wonder if this game's been pulled for some reason. But a Clippers cover, I guess we'll never know. A Clippers cover, let's see if this game got pulled, and that's where our problem is here. No, the problem is the UConn odds have changed slightly. So we have to take these off real quick. We'll get them all right back. We've got Dallas, Toronto, and Boston in the NBA. Just bring all of this back up. We had an odds change in the UConn game, so we're going to go Kansas cover. We're going to go Duke cover. We're going to go Mavs money line. We're going to go Raptors money line. We're going to go Celtics money line. We're going to go with the women's games. We've got South Carolina there, and we've got UConn now minus 105 money line. Take that. And that gets us back up to our plus 1211. And then we're at this Clippers-Bucks game, which I think, as you're seeing, this is the plight of the sports bettor. This Clippers-Bucks game the odds have been pulled for a moment. So we find a fill-in 8th game. This is interesting. The Pelicans minus 2 over just a struggling Lakers team. This game is very interesting, but I'm worried. Actually kind of like the Timberwolves plus 130, the money line to outright win over the Nuggets. But we really just want to win this thing. We want to settle it down and win this thing. So we're gonna take the Spurs minus 1,600. I know, not exciting, but it's going to be our final pick. It's going to take our parlay up to plus 1293. So basically 13-1 on your money. and guaranteed winners. All 8. I wanted a bonus game, but this was actually going to be a little bit of bonus money right there. So, 13-1, not bad, including 2 Final Four games. Very excited about that. Very excited about this weekend in general. I'm thrown off by this. It was going to bring us up to like 18-1, and I felt good about that. But we move forward and we adapt. So, this is our official parlay for the week. We've got our 8 picks in. We've got Kansas. We've got Duke. We've got UConn. We've got South Carolina. Got the Mavs. Got the Celtics. Got the Spurs. And got the Raptors. And we've got plus 13-1. Guaranteed winners. Just like they are every week. All right, that's going to be it for this week's episode of In Pursuit of a Parlay. I've been Chris Horwedel. Thank you so much for listening. Like I said, thank you so much for your support. If you haven't done so, like, share, subscribe on wherever you're listening to it. And we will be back here next week. Thanks for listening.